Have you ever noticed how hard it is to think clearly when you're worried about rent? That is not a coincidence. A lack of money actually acts like a physical tax on your brain, temporarily limiting your ability to focus and solve problems. Behavioral economists refer to this as the scarcity trap. When a resource like money is severely limited, it hijacks your attention. Your brain becomes so overoccupied with immediate survival that it literally drains the daily willpower you need to make rational, long-term decisions. This mental capacity is your cognitive bandwidth. When it's depleted by constant financial stress, you are forced into making impulsive choices. It's why you might buy a cheap pair of shoes that wear out in a month, forcing you to buy them twice, or why you might indefinitely postpone a cheap medical checkup until it becomes an expensive emergency. It also leads to what we call poor math. If you see a television listed for $200 on sale for $100, your exhausted brain tells you that you just saved $100. But if you never actually needed the TV, you didn't save anything. You just drained another $100 from a pool that was already empty. So why do we do it? Because spending money provides a psychological comfort. When you have zero control over your income, the act of buying something gives you a fleeting, momentary feeling of wealth and authority over your life. People trapped in poverty aren't stupid. They are operating with exhausted brains. The true devastation of being broke is the severe, ongoing lack of mental bandwidth required to plan a way out. The self-made rich counteract this exhaustion by relying on automated routines. By hardwiring specific habits into their daily lives, they never have to rely on raw, easily depleted willpower to build their wealth. Take the inputs they feed their minds. After spending 5 years studying the daily routines of millionaires, author Tom Corley found a massive divide. Over 90% of the people with minimal assets rarely read, or only read for entertainment. The wealthy read relentlessly, strictly to learn, adapt, and grow. Then there is the mathematical reality of money itself. The middle class wastes energy trying to cut their daily expenses down to zero. The rich know you cannot save your way to true wealth because the most you can cut your spending by is 100%. Income, however, has absolutely no ceiling. Because they focus on earning, they never rely on a single paycheck. Relying on one employer is a massive vulnerability. Most self-made millionaires establish at least 3 separate streams of income long before they hit their first million. When mental bandwidth is low, it's easy to blame the system for every setback. This mindset creates a psychological blind spot where legitimate builders are viewed with suspicion, while criminal empires and cartel bosses are placed on a pedestal, idolized as the only people who actually found a way to win. Adopting just one of these wealthy routines acts like a domino effect. It begins to eliminate your poor habits, lifting the cognitive load of scarcity and shifting your brain entirely from survival mode into builder mode. Once you increase your income and automate your habits, you need a framework to turn that extra cash into permanent freedom. Enter FIRE, Financial Independence, Retire Early. FIRE is a mathematical engine built on the 25x rule. You simply calculate your core annual living expenses, and you multiply that exact number by 25. That result is your total financial independence target. To reach that target, you don't pick individual stocks. You park your savings in low-cost index funds, a steady, broad market investment vehicle pioneered by Vanguard founder John Bogle, which guarantees long-term compound growth. This line graph illustrates the sustainability of the 4% rule. Based on historical data, if you withdraw a maximum of 4% from your index funds each year, your portfolio will sustain itself through inflation and market dips. Your money will likely outlive you. This mathematical target transforms wealth from an abstract collection of luxury items into a precise equation used to permanently buy back your time. While the initial conditions of poverty are systemic and exhausting, staying in that cycle requires a refusal to change your inputs. In an era where information is abundant, failing to pivot toward new financial habits is a choice that eventually hardens into a destiny. Claiming that the entire system is rigged against you is incredibly common, but it is ultimately a psychological defense mechanism. It is the easiest way to justify inaction and avoid the brutal, uncomfortable work required to improve your skills. To change your trajectory, you have to cut the dead weight. That means severing ties with toxic relationships and surrounding yourself exclusively with success-minded people who expect you to win. When you start earning, you realize what the money is actually for. As Chris Rock noted, wealth is not about having a lot of money, it's about having a lot of options. It is the freedom to walk away from a bad job, a bad location, or a bad deal. The defining difference between the classes is how far ahead they look. The poor look only to the end of the week. The middle class plans quarter to quarter. The rich plan decade to decade. If you want those rich outcomes, you have to take brutal, unflinching ownership of your life today. Stop cutting down the apple tree just to sell the firewood. Plant your seeds now, protect them, and build your own wealth, because absolutely no one else is coming to do it for you.